Hello there, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to my final freaking review of Hannibal for the first devastating season. So, spoiler alert, as we dive into the insanities, there is much to say here, okay? And this devastated me in a way that was unexpected. You know, because the whole latter half of the season, like the official slogan of this fandom, of this Hannibal community that is swallowing the globe right now, is somebody please help Will Graham, okay? If any of you guys are anywhere on the internet, which you are in fact right now in case you didn't know, or especially on Tumblr and Twitter, then you guys have really picked up on that, as I'm sure you guys have felt the very same desire to help Will Graham in his place of need, okay? And so we've all had this deep, you know, ironic as this is, this empathy for Will, to imagine, you know, being trapped in this game of cat and mouse and being so assured of your innocence, and yet at every angle you're tacked against the wall and you're absolutely posted up on this cross that you never bargained for, you know? And at the end of this season, the pain is, you know, not whether or not Will is going to be broken. Is he truly broken? Is he off the deep end? We see him in a place of clarity at the end, but it is the subject of that clarity that drives us absolutely insane. Because the fact of the matter, and this is embodied in Hannibal's smile in that last split second, the fact of the matter is that Hannibal has won. And what that looks like is him having this friend, someone who can completely see him for who he is, and yet can do nothing to change his nature without coming across as completely paranoid and delusional. Well freaking played, Hannibal. And I've gotta say, you know, I really am just trying to get over my desire to sympathize with Hannibal and to understand him and to see myself in him. I mean, it's almost like it's not what that character is about, you know, because for me, having watched shows like Dexter, you know, or the anti-hero or the Byronic hero or whatever kind of hero you want to look at, you know, a protagonist serial killer as, however you want to see him, you know, the whole bent has been to sympathize with this character, to relate to him, and to see that his struggles are genuine and they're universal and pervasive in the entire human experience. And, you know, be he what he may, you know, as the result of the tragedy he experienced when he was younger and the way that his father shaped him accordingly, you know, it's like this character is almost built up for us to grieve deeply for him and to root him on in what he does. Because at least he uses his madness, so to speak, in a productive way. As, you know, Will is trying to do the same, working for the FBI, or at least he was previously. You know, it's like what Jack was saying, like he was saving lives, and that was what Will was trying to do in, you know, and empathizing with these serial killers. But then we take the character of Hannibal, and I have never more wholeheartedly agreed with Mads Mikkelsen on the fact that this character is above and beyond any other kind of antagonist / protagonist, anti-hero thing, creature, god, you know. He is so far beyond that, because, you know, we don't really know what made him who he is, or if he was just, you know, if he was just born that way. Some men are just born with supreme evil. I don't know. And it's just, it's so disturbing to see just how ridiculously in control he is and what that ultimately leads up to. I have a link in the description for you guys to graciously consider. I was trolling around on Tumblr for a while after this episode because I was just about to, like, you know, like pull my brain through my ear with like a fork, a really tiny fork, you know, something that could like fit through my ear and like, you know, get up there and like, and pull out the gray matter and put it in a bowl and make soup or something. I'm sure Hannibal would have a better idea. Anyways, I was about to go ballistic, just like that was not the cliffhanger I was expecting, actually. I thought that the episode was going to cut off when Will was lying on the kitchen floor in Abigail's house, and he's, you know, Jack's just shot him and he's looking up at Hannibal going, see, you know, like Garrett Jacob Hobbs in the very beginning, you know, that very nice parallelism and, you know, that kind of heartbreaking symmetry in this season. The writing is just so tight. I have to say, I'm going to be watching this episode quite a few more times to really continue soaking everything in, because it was so completely and utterly not what I expected. I did expect Will to see Hannibal for who he truly is, and we see that embodied in the transformation of the stag. It's no longer this animal. It is a person in a human shape, and everything, you know, even in what you might argue to be, you know, Will's most broken state, he finds Hannibal for who he is, and I believe that he's still retained that, you know, after he finally begins his treatment for his encephalitis, and you know, just that critical scene where Hannibal goes in to visit Will, and, you know, we see there, I believe that there is a recognition on both of their parts. There's this sort of like, well played, you son of a bitch. And then Hannibal's like, I know. Oh girl, I know. That's how I do. And as for how, you know, so that's the kind of cliffhanger that we're left with. It's not like, you know, getting wrenched out of the scene in the middle of the action. It's something else entirely, and I love that, because we just have no idea where things are going to pick up, and, you know, where we're going to find Will. And, you know, as for Hannibal, you know, he's just gonna keep whining and dining his way around the world, and it's just crazy. I think, okay, I was in the process of telling you guys about this link that's in the description. I found this very awesome, somebody on Tumblr wrote about basically Hannibal's motives with Will, and this is something that has been just racking my brain this entire season. Like, what exactly is Hannibal trying to do? If he wants a friend, you know, why would he endeavor to expose that person and frame them so intricately? You know, it's like, what exactly does he want here? I mean, because, you know, if he had wanted to have like a co-killer, you know, somebody else who does exactly what he does alongside of him, then he probably would have taken Tobias up on his offer a few episodes back, you know. But I think that he very quickly saw that that relationship can only, you know, ultimately come down to one kills the other, you know. You really, it's really not easy to make friends that have common interests when it comes to the art of taking life, okay? You know, I think that much Hannibal saw in the person of Tobias, and Tobias is a far less careful, less, you know, less really self-conscious kind of an individual. And Hannibal realized that he really couldn't be understood by someone who shares his profession, but not the ability to truly understand him and where he comes from, you know. What he does is just unique and different, and he just wants to be seen for who he is, okay? And, yeah, so it's not, I finally realized that it's not about Hannibal having someone alongside him to do exactly what he does, but rather it's to have someone who is capable on a higher level of seeing him. And I'm actually going to read an excerpt from the story because it is just so dang good, and if I try and say it any other way, it is just not even going to be comparable. But so basically what they said is this: Hannibal got exactly what he wanted at the end of the season. He wasn't really interested in breaking Will. At the very end, with bars between them, Dr. Lecter saw the recognition in Will's eyes. He could tell just by looking into his eyes that Will knew exactly what Hannibal was. Not only that, but with Will's abilities, he truly knows in the sense only a pure empath can. Empath. Either way, you know what I'm saying. Hannibal has finally gotten a friend who he can completely let go in front of. He can share his accomplishments and his true nature to Will without killing him because Graham is in jail. No one will believe him if he tries to tell them who Lecter is. That fracking bastard got exactly what he wanted when Will figured out everything. Now he can go talk to Will freely, wherever he wants, without hiding. You know, and it's like that really pieced it together for me in a way that, you know, I really hadn't been able to accomplish before watching this show. I'm just like, what are you doing? Like, why, you know, it's not just about breaking Will, because Will is not, he's not quite capable of being completely broken, because he is so assured of his innocence. He knows who he is. He's constantly reaffirming that, you know, especially in the last couple episodes. You know, it's like, I am awake, I am alert, I know who I am, and I know what I'm doing. And he's very conscientious about that. And so he's not really the kind of person who you can put in a situation of making them completely question everything about who they are. You know, Hannibal has kind of tried to experiment with that in the process of, you know, getting what he wants from Will, but, you know, Will cannot be fully broken in that sense. And that's just part of him being who he is and having his special talents, and that really provides the draw that Hannibal is so invested in. Because in the story from Tumblr that I just read a little excerpt from, you know, they discuss how Hannibal has the opportunity to, you know, seek the same kind of companionship from the different, you know, psychopaths around him. It's kind of like what Freddie Lounds was saying, you know, here we are, just a bunch of psychopaths helping each other out. So, you know, Hannibal kind of gets his pick from the lot, you know, trying to figure out who's going to make the best. You know, it's not so much as, it's not really about having a disciple of sorts, you know. I mean, I guess in a sense, you know, I keep thinking about Paradise Lost when I think about Hannibal, and how, you know, in Paradise Lost is Lucifer. He's the fallen angel. He is the one who wanted too much. He wanted to be equal with God, to transcend God, and to be, you know, to have his own throne, his own place and acclaim. And he's kicked out of heaven for that. And he takes a bunch of other angels down with him that are there, you know, they're drawn to him. I haven't read the text in a long time, nor Genesis, the biblical book from which Paradise Lost is kind of inspired, you know, so it's like, I don't know, you know, because I think that the metaphor of Hannibal as Satan is really kind of a good one, because I don't think it's as simple as him, you know, responding to a childhood trauma. I mean, that could be involved, but there's something about him that is so beyond that, and that's really all I can put my finger on at this point, you know. He's quite an enigma, and it makes me very glad that this show has been renewed, because we're going to get to see a lot further into that. Yeah, it's just wild to me. So it's like, I don't really see him as trying to make Will his disciple, and I don't think that's exactly what he was trying to even do with Abigail either, you know. But Abigail was his opportunity to see, you know, if he could take someone so closely impacted by, you know, what Hannibal does, take someone and make them understand him. But he sees in that last critical moment that he and Abigail share at the very end that that's just not going to play out exactly, you know, and their relationship is so interesting on so many levels, and I could just go on and on about that, but I'll talk more specifically about some of my reactions throughout the finale episode. I really liked the emotional response from Alana, you know, because she's constantly trying, this entire season, you know, she was trying to affirm, you know, her purely scholastic, well, not scholastic, I guess, her professional relationship with Will Graham, you know, and she's curious about him, and he has some level of, you know, some feelings for her, and she wants to reciprocate, but she can't trust herself to be genuine and loving in the way that she would need to be if they were to be together, because of the fact that she knows that he's unstable. And she's afraid to invest, not because I don't think it's because she thinks that Will would lash out at her and hurt her, but rather just that she's afraid that she's going to keep picking him apart every single day, you know, of their lives that they spend together. And, you know, I can understand that if that's the place that she's coming from. You know, you want to have someone that you're seeking to understand, but not someone that you're trying to, you know, doing what Hannibal does with his friends. And yeah, so I really appreciated her emotional response throughout the episode. I thought it was so appropriate, her anger and her frustration and her desire to get to the bottom of everything. And yet it's so crazy how Hannibal just perfectly counters everything that Jack and Ilana present, you know. And I think it's so, Jack's just so gung-ho. He's just like, this is an intelligent psychopath, and I can just see Hannibal going, yes, precisely, you know. And so that triangle of interactions throughout the episode was just like, I feel like I'm watching this crazy friggin' ping pong match, and I'm just like more involved in this metaphorical ping pong than I could ever be in an actual ping pong match, probably. I like to see them all play ping pong as they like try and discuss all this stuff, like, you know, they're just like hitting me like crazy, like, ah, Will's innocent, ah, and then Hannibal's just kind of like, you know, he's just like nailing everything, and like Jack and Ilana are just yelling, they're flipping the table, and he's just like, you know, he's like doing tricks and crap. I could see it. I could see that. But anyway, yeah, so I was just really jiving with her, and you know, the one moment where I teared up was, and not only when Winston is looking longingly at Will as he's getting tucked into the cop car, but as, you know, the scenes that he shares with Ilana, and just her expression of grief over everything that's transpired, her desire to set everything right, you know. I think that to some extent, you know, she might be his only hope, you know, because Will's been so close to Jack all this time, but, you know, Jack is in a very different place, you know, especially being that he found Will in the position that he did at Abigail's house, and Hannibal set it up just so perfectly. You know, I think it's just listen, you know, if you rewatch these episodes, just listen to the way that Hannibal communicates with Will as Will is trying to figure everything out. Hannibal is constantly trying to put him in the position as killer, like, if I say it enough, he'll think it's true, and yet, oh my god, it's just brilliant. It is disgustingly, repulsively brilliant, and I don't know what I'm gonna do with myself as the show goes forward. It just never ceases to surprise me. So there's just so many winning performances all around this episode, just absolutely stunning. Especially, of course, with Hugh Dancy and with Mads Mikkelsen. I mean, get the Emmy people up in here, okay? Because there is some serious talent afoot. It is on the loose and unstoppable. Like, I just loved. There's at one point, you know, when Will's escaped, and he's in Hannibal's house, and you know, Hannibal's kind of trying to like walk him back through all the kills, like, okay, imagine if you were blah blah, you know, and Will's like seeing all the sculptures of everything in his head, like he's walking through this museum of what ifs, and at one point Hannibal's tone completely changes, and he like, that was like a Satan moment. I was just like, whoa, you know, you just let the veil down right there. I mean, it is just stunning, every intricacy. And can we talk about Hannibal and Bedelia? Okay, what does she know? What does she know? Because, and in that final scene, you know, where Hannibal's bringing dinner to her, you know, we sense that she's constantly trying to keep Hannibal at bay. And at one point, you know, as she's kind of, Hannibal's like, your food's getting cold, and, you know, she's kind of stirring it around. She's like, a very controversial choice of meal, you know, something along those lines. And I was like, does she know what is sitting on her plate here? I mean, like, I was just staring like, oh man, does she know? And, you know, as things progress, you know, she's telling Hannibal to back off. She's like very carefully trying to inject some truth into the situation, and I was like, the tension was unbelievable. I was expecting him to just like freaking rage across the table and like strangle her at any minute, but the relationship is so, there's such an elegance and refinery about things, and it's a very careful game of chess, very attractive chess with two very attractive people, and you know, they're like at either side of the chessboard, like making these strategic moves forward and then backwards a bit, and then they kind of go forward the other way, and they're sort of like circling each other almost. How much does she really know about him? You know, Hannibal's like, have you begun to question who I am? And she's like, you know, I think at the very least, she knows that he's a psychopath, and that there is something far more sinister that he's doing with, you know, the relationships that he makes with his violent patients. But does she know anything further? You know, we haven't learned anything further about the attack, you know, that she says that she lied about. There's just a lot here yet to be explored, so I'm glad that she made it to the next season. I'm glad that the chess game isn't over yet. I'm really taking a liking to Bedelia. There's something so interesting about her, and I just wonder, you know, if she's going to reach a breaking point or come into the crossfire of things. It's just, good lord. What did you guys think of this finale? Was it everything you dreamed and more? You know, I thought there were going to be more tears on my part. It was more like me just not breathing for prolonged periods, because I'm like, there's so much to absorb. And they don't, you know, the thing about this show is that they don't resort to the easy, like, heartstring pullers. It's like you're half terrified, half enthralled at just how ridiculous this is, and it's like there's almost no time for your tear ducts to even activate in the most tragic moments. It's just almost this complete and utter horror, and you're just stunned. You know, it's almost like this constant state of shock with this show. And you know, Hannibal's performance in front of Bedelia when he comes to her in tears over what's transpired, it's, again, it's like I want to trust something about those tears. Like, there's got to be something I can grab onto, you know, something legitimate that is taking place on an emotional level. You know, it's like, is he truly psychopathic in that respect? And yet at the same time, this whole elaborate, seamless trap that he set up, could anyone but a psychopath conjure something up like that? You know, and that's another thing that really keeps me hooked into this show, is like, who are you really? You know? Will sees who he is. What is he going to do with this information? How now shall the bromance go forth, if at all? You know, I feel like, is Hannibal gonna really up the charms, you know, bring him some super splendid, fantastic meals to kind of tide him over? I don't know. I mean, it's like, I think that Hannibal's really going to relish where things are, and is there any sense of remorse on his part? Is this exactly what he wanted? At what point did he see the need to put Will in prison? At what point did he really tap into that as his most viable option for, you know, getting the most bang for his buck in this twisted friendship? It's, you know, I can't wait to go back and rewatch this series and just really break everything down, knowing where things are going to lead, and yet not knowing in the end, because there's a lot of uncertainty going on here. So my throat is as dry as the Sahara. And I am going to, I believe, leave you guys on this note. You know, I had some coffee earlier, but I feel strangely unchanged. I don't know. I feel powerful. I have power over the caffeine intakes that I have at unhealthy hours of the night, which I guess is good. I have actually things to do tomorrow, right? Who does things? Not me. Ever. So thank you guys so much for joining me on this crazy ride through Hannibal Montanables mad adventures. You know, he gets the best of both worlds. Chill it out, take it slow, and rock out the show. God. This, yeah, like, watching this show is like freaking, it is a freaking exercise of the heart. It is like a trapeze act. It is not easy. It is not cheap entertainment by any means. It requires so many muscles in your mind to be working, you know. It's like it takes more, you know, they say it takes more muscles to frown than to smile, but I mean, I'm feeling a lot of muscles at work here, and I'm not feeling extremely happy either, but I'm going to continue to seek shelter in the beautiful Hannibal fandom as we go forward and try to rejuvenate before Dexter returns. So thank you guys so much. It has been a pleasure to review this show, and I really can't wait to have this back next year and some more of these sexy people and their traumatic positions of life. Where are we gonna go from here? So thank you guys so incredibly much. I love you all, and I will, in fact, be back before you know it. Take care, and bon appetit.